The information that will be shared in this video, it's my understanding, my practice, but more important, my experience. So don't take anything that is going to be said here as the absolute truth. If you resonate with anything that is being said, you can put it into practice and let your experience determine the validity of what is being shared here. Having said that, enjoy this video. Hi, welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. The topic I'm going to address here, or will be addressed through this instrument, is overcoming desires. I labeled it like that because I didn't know what other title to give it, but I feel that it's not about overcoming desires. I think it's about seeing them for what they are. So, what is the trap behind desires that keeps us distracted from the happiness, from the peace that we always are? This is the way I see it, and let's see if this serves you. I cannot control the desires because they arise, just like thoughts. I cannot control my thoughts. I can see them for what they are, but I cannot know what is the next thought I'm going to have. Same with desires. And usually, desires are a product of our conditioning. So, if you were raised in a particular environment, you are prone to have certain kinds of desires, while others who were raised in a different kind of environment may be prone to different kinds of desires. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter where you grew up, or what kind of environment, or in what kind of environment you grew up. It's completely irrelevant, because the solution, if you want to use that word, I don't like to use it because, it's not like a solution, nothing has to be fixed, but for now, let's see if this word applies. The solution would be to know who I am. And the moment I get to know who I am, then all desires will no longer be a distraction. Now, in getting to know who I am, I have to look at what I am not. What I am not. I am not the feelings. I am not the sensations. I am not anything the mind tells me that I am. I am not even the desires. I simply am. We can never not be. So let's look at the trap of the desires. Once the sense of individual seems to be believed, or it is believed, then the desires are promises that the mind offers in order for me to be happy. You see? The desire for something, what it entails, it has the promise that if I get that, I'm going to be happy, because I have overlooked the happiness, the peace that I always am. And I suggest you watch the last video. I will put the link on the description because we just talked about that. It was about, the fact that happiness, peace is what you are. But anyhow, what a desire do is that it makes me a false promise. And the funny thing about it is that that false promise is constantly reinforced by a lie. Let me explain how it works. Let's say I have something that I want. It doesn't matter. Could be a particular achievement, could be an object, a new house, a car, a partner, more money. It doesn't really matter, right? I want that. And then I convince myself that the chase of that is part of what makes me happy. You know, I'm happy because I'm chasing that thing, because I am already assuming that once I get that or achieve whatever, I'm going to be happy, right? But in reality, all I'm doing is overshadowing the happiness that I am, and I'm using that excuse to cover up the suffering that is what is driving me to pursue anything. Because if I am happy, I don't need it to pursue anything. I don't need anything else. What would I need if I'm already happy? What would I want if I'm already happy? You see? There's a beautiful line in the Bible that says, when I quote the Bible or any kind of spiritual teaching or so, I'm not assuming that this is all that I'm not trying to get you into thinking that that's the only path. No, it's just that they come through, and I enjoy quoting from from whatever teaching may come up. Could be the Bible, could be Buddhism, could be A Course in Miracles, could be Hinduism, could be anything. It doesn't matter. But in this particular one, I love a quote from the Bible that says, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want." And to me, it implies that love, peace, is really what I truly desire. In that sense, no truth. And because I'm choosing truth above all else, which is peace actually, then if I choose that, I shall not want anything else. So going back to what we're talking here, when I find myself pursuing objects or something, I am under the illusion, first of all, the illusion that I am happy because I'm chasing something. Like I said, when in reality, I'm just covering up the dissatisfaction that I'm feeling underneath, but the mind say that dissatisfaction is happiness in pursuit of, right? And I'm assuming that once I get that, I'll be happy. So once I find that or I get it, I said, whew, I feel so happy. You see, that's the trap. Because I am not happy because I achieved that, you see. Because if I achieve that, I should be happy for the rest of my life. You notice that once something is achieved, there's an old quote that says, or I've heard that said, "This is all there is." I think it was from the movie Scarface. That he got all this power, all this stuff, and then he's like, "This is all there is." So once we get that, we say, "I'm happy," and that reinforces that belief that says, "I am happy because of." The happiness and peace we're referring to in these videos is unconditional, is unperturbable, the peace that passes all understanding. It's never changing, it's eternal. That's our nature. Once again, watch the last video and you see how it is. It's obvious. So anyhow, I achieve that and I go, wow, I'm happy. But in reality, I am not happy. I am temporarily satisfied. But once I see that this thing that I have doesn't do the trick, because after a while, it's just like, okay, I'm not being happy anymore because this thing that I have is not giving it to me, then I want to choose the next thing. And then I live a whole life unsatisfied, trying to pursue the next thing, thinking that that is going to make me happy, and even convincing myself that I'm happy because I have something to chase, right? But in reality, I am unhappy, see, because I don't feel fulfilled, I'm not complete, and I feel that my completeness comes from once I get that. Anyhow, let's look at the trick now. The moment I achieve that, I say I'm happy because I have achieved that. Not necessarily. The moment I achieve that and I am happy is because the desire that it was there chasing that thing is no longer there. So the absence of the desire is the happiness that I am experiencing. You follow? So what we're doing now with the desires, we're not judging them, we're not making them wrong, we're just seeing them for what they are. Once that is seen, the spell has been cast. Does that mean that once it's seen through, I cannot go or pursue things that I like? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that now I am happy, and whatever I do is just part of the journey. It's part of whatever I'm supposed to do here, for whatever the reason is. I don't have to know why. I think Abraham Maslow used to say, a writer must write, a painter must paint, and a musician must make music if in the end they want to be at peace with themselves. But there's something missing in that, I feel, at least according to what we're sharing in this video, is that a writer not only must write, he or she cannot not write. A musician not only must make music, he or she cannot not make music. A painter not only must paint, but he or she cannot not paint, because that is what they are, that is what they're born to do, and life is actually through them leading them to do that. The problem comes when the act of painting or the act of creating music, or the activity, put it this way, of writing is overshadowed by the thoughts and the belief system. For example, painting, the joy of painting is something that if that is what they are born to do, they will do it anyway. The problem is now when the painting turns into, oh, this has to be in a museum so that I can be happy, so that I can be recognized. You see, that's where the problem comes in. Creating music, just the joy of creating music is there, wonderful. The problem is when I think, now I have to win a Grammy, now I want to be successful, now I want to be on a big stage. You see? The same thing with a writer. Now my book has to be #1 bestseller or whatever. No. The joy of doing that is just a natural expression that of your beingness. And if you don't overshadow it with all these concepts and ideas that we've been taught, there's no problem. You see, I have written books. I don't call myself an author. Some people may want to call me an author. Call me what you want. I know that I am nothing. I always love the quote from Nisargadatta Mahara. When I know that I'm nothing, that's wisdom. When I know that I am everything, that is love. And between these two, my life moves. So I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I am nothing, that I am nobody. And that is not self-deprecating or anything like that. It's just a fact. What I am am. Any label that I superimposed of that is a lie. I am. And that I amness is what is referred to as love. You see? So, and that's what you are. That's what we're remembering through this information. So anyhow, I have created music. I'm a music, again, I'm not any of those labels, but I have produced, created music. I have CDs. I have all that kinds of stuff. And I've enjoyed the whole process. At some point in my life, I was a professional stand-up comedian. I enjoyed the process. What happened is, maybe during those years, I was playing that role, and I thought that I wanted something more, and life says, no, your journey is to remember who you are. And interestingly enough, although I have those abilities, like you have yours, look what I'm doing. Or what life is doing through this instrument. Videos about this kind of information. And that brings me a lot of joy. But I am not doing this because I'm trying to become something. This is just part of a self-expression. Well, a desire to do this must have to come first. See? It's not that desires are no longer in my life. They appear, but they are seen as just that. If life doesn't want me to do any more videos or to talk about this, well, life will have another plan for me. See? But whatever plan life has for me, it doesn't matter. I am always happy. I am always peace, like the prior video. And if you want, although it's in Spanish, but you can put the subtitles in English in YouTube. I'm gonna leave the link down underneath. You can watch my video when I was at the hospital. I was just operated, okay? And after the operation, I was sitting in the bed, and I noticed how the desire, you see, to create a video came about, and I recorded a video, me being in bed at the hospital, telling that if you think that wherever you are right now, let's say playing with your kids and your family in a park or something, is better than where I am right now, you're missing the mark. Because it is a state of mind. I was perfectly fine with my experience, and I wasn't thinking I wish it was different. No, that is just what I was presented to me. If I do not identify with the mind, with the thinking mind, trying to tell me this should be like this or shouldn't be like that, then I am happy, peace, I am. But if I identify with the thinking that says I wish things were different, then again it's because there's an identification with my sense of identity that is the one that either tries to survive or is trying to pursue, you see, because it's overlooking the happiness, the peace in which it rests all the time. That's the nature of who I am. See? And we're remembering that all the time. We're reminding of that. So we don't let the mind get in the way and try to make believe that things should be other than what they are. Things just are. If I don't get the mind involved in the process, if I don't believe the mind, better said, it's not the mind will try to get involved. That is his job. The mind's job is to try and to protect the sense of identity. But once that is seen, then life is. And I'll tell you a story. When I was at the hospital, and they were taking me before the operating room. I remember this. It was beautiful. I was I just enjoying the journey. I was thinking, okay, I'm just waiting until they take me to the operating room. And I felt a sense of love. I sensed a great deal of, I don't know, I cannot explain, because I saw how life was taking care of me. You see? And I wasn't thinking in terms of, oh, I want to live. No. So anyhow, when I go to the operating room, the doctor, because in Spain they don't have an anesthesiologist. The anesthesiologist is actually a doctor, so not the one that is operating me, of course. So the anesthesiologist, the doctor, she began to put the mask in me, and she asked, it's funny enough, she asked me what I do for a living. I said, well, I talk about inner peace or something. And she said, yeah, I sense that from you anyhow. Well, not because I'm anything special, it's because I was not concerned at all, you know. I wasn't concerned if I was going to wake up out of the operating room. I didn't care, because I am, you see. This is just part of the play. So the lady, she puts the mask and she said, think of happy thoughts, you know, she would say that. And the thought that it was always in my mind, or in the mind, or the thought that it was appearing in what is, it was, I'm ready to go home. I am ready to go. I'm grateful that the character was about to disappear. It was a sense of, I don't know, it's like when you're at bed at night, when you go into deep sleep and there's no sense of you, where all problems, everything disappears, you see? So what's wrong with that? That's wonderful. That's the best that you can possibly think. That's why in one of the books that it was written through this instrument that is called The Gift of an Illness, I have a whole chapter on death because people are so afraid of it. And I said, but what do you know about it? You cannot talk about something you have not experienced. The closest to that experience, if I'm going to use the word experience, would be when you are in deep sleep. In deep sleep, when you're not even dreaming, where the mind is not engaged, where imagination is not engaged, you are. That's, what can I say? Well, are you afraid of that? So, of course, the mind thinks, no, I don't want to die because I have a family, I have things I want to do. Again, they're overlooking who they are, identification with identity, and now I think that I have all the things and all that stuff. But in reality, it's like when dreaming. When you go to bed at night and you dream, in the dream you can have all sorts of things. But when you wake up from the dream, you didn't leave those things behind. Those things or those experiences or that world for that matter never existed. Well, this one either. However, just let's go step by step. So what happens? I was blessed. I was blissed. I was in bliss. And then when I woke up the next morning, to me it's an indication that, okay, life wants to keep this instrument moving around for a little longer, so let's see what will be presented. And then life continue. Like right now, I don't know if I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, not because I had any health issues or so, because again, we don't know. I'm not in charge of my life. But when I go to bed at night, I feel like I'm home. And then if I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, life, you're waking me up. I mean, you're the one, taking this image and making it appear again, so you will know what you want to do with it. And because there's a deep recognition that I don't have to be concerned about what to do. Life is doing through me. And that takes the form of desires. The desire to move to the left, the desire to move to the right. You see? So what we're learning is to seeing them for what they are and don't make anything special of them. And that's how you live happily. You see? That's the peace of mind that is so much searched for, that we're trying to find it as a result of chasing objects. You see, we associate peace of mind with attainment of things. That is not peace of mind. That is just engaging the mind with the illusion, following this dangling carrot always, you see. And that is an expression of fear. It's all fear. But you are, you see. We are being all the time. And consequently, then life is just, I don't know, it's a mystery. I don't know what is the next syllable is going to come out of my mouth, or this instrument, through this instrument. I don't know what life wants to do with me. I don't have any goals or any agendas. I just see life happening. And if an agenda had to take place, well, I'm pretty sure that life will move this instrument to make an agenda, if that's the case. The difference is that the agenda will not be written in ink, it will be written in pencil. Because we know, or at least I know, and I'm pretty sure that from experience you must know, that life eventually is the one that decides what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. So I write it in pencil because I know that life at any point will erase it. What happens is when sometimes things happen the way we think we want, we take those things as said, you see, I'm in charge. Because I don't want to look the 95% that things didn't go my way. I want to look at the 5% that things seem to have gone my way to convince myself that I'm in charge of my life. Now you may say, well, but then why 5% have to go your way? Well, because that's the only way you're going to believe in the ego. That's the only way you're going to believe in your false sense of identity. If things never go your way, at some point you have to go, okay, maybe this is, you become suspicious, you see. So everything have to fail sometimes. A movie I recommend you to watch is The Truman Show. That's a perfect example. He was lied the whole time, but sometimes things didn't go according to plan, things failed, and from those failures he began to suspect, you see. Well, that's how life is, you know. We notice that things don't go the way we want. We notice that we're not happy when we achieve what we want. We experience temporary pleasure, but then it's like, okay, but now what? And eventually there comes a time when we go, you know what? I can't deal with this anymore. I want the real happiness, the real peace. And that's why I like to quote from A Course in Miracles, what says, tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. Well, in a sense, we're sort of predestined to get to know who we are, because the experience of limitation as a result of believing that we are this body, this separate individual, will overwhelm us. See, that's why we're chasing things to try to feel, to try to experience the wholeness that we are, you see. And because it's been overlooked by thinking, by our conditioning, now the time will come when we'll come to the realization that I can't do this anymore. I just want peace. And at that moment is when we're ready to experience the freedom that we are. So desires will be there. That's fine. We're now not believing them. And whatever has to happen in our journey will happen according to the mystery of life. And at the beginning that could be very scary, because we spend our whole life trying to control it because of fear, of course. Now, once the recognition of what I am is established, then there's no suffering. It's just life doing what life does. But at least I know who I am. And this is all we are reminded through these videos. That's it. The message is never going to change. So happiness is what you are, and right this moment you're resting in it, and desires may come up, they can be seen, and if I'm supposed to make a left, I'll make a left, and if I'm supposed to make a right, I'll make a right. Free of suffering, in complete surrender, trusting life. It's like going to an amusement park and the cart is already programmed to go wherever it has to go to. But as a joke, we put a little steering wheel on the cart to make believe that we can steer it. But no, we cannot steer it. I'm not talking bumping carts or something like that. I'm talking the one that goes through a lake or something like that. You know, they already have the everything mapped out. So we put the steering wheel and we believe that we can make it turn left or right. No, it's gonna turn wherever it's supposed to turn. Well, so is life. Nothing is guaranteed. Life will turn the way it's supposed to turn. We just have to simply remember that we are not this individual who's trying to turn life. We are life itself. Well, so this is what came through this instrument. Hope you enjoyed it, and or hope it served. And now, like I always say, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.